I'm Mega Mike the Movie Man, and today I got a mega movie plan. Mega Mike the Movie Man back with another mega ranking for you all. I'm going to be ranking all the Spider-Man movie villains. I'm going to go through all the live action movies, going through the Tobey Maguire era, through the Andrew Garfield movies, and then up to the newer Tom Holland movies. So I'm going to be ranking every single villain from the worst to the best. So if you want to see my favorite Spider-Man villain, make sure you stick around to the very end of the video for that favorite choice. But without further ado, let's get started. So coming in last place at our number 13th spot is going to be the Rhino. Was there any other person I could put here? I mean, the Rhino gets such small screen time in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and he doesn't have any character development at all. Literally, he's just a person with a Russian accent that isn't that great and is just yelling at the screen the whole time, right? Saying he's the Rhino. Okay, I don't know what that means. I don't know where we're going with that. Just not enough development for this character. Nothing too great with him either in terms of action sequences. It's just cut way too short for him. So, Rhino, clear last spot. Next, at our number 12 spot, is going to be Venom from Spider-Man 3. Wow, this was not a great villain here at all. And I know we were so excited and pumped to see Venom for the first time on the big screen. And wow, it was just a letdown completely, just for the casting of Topher Grace, which just seemed completely out of place here. Didn't work as an Eddie Brock, was not intimidating at all, and just didn't have a good flushed out storyline. And then when he gets the Venom symbiote suit, he doesn't even turn into a big, strong, menacing Venom character. He just isn't scary at all. He just isn't cool like Venom is. And it's just weird. And it doesn't even show him with the complete Venom suit on for a lot of the time. Usually it's just showing a Topher Grace face for the most part on a Venom body. And it just looks odd and out of place and doesn't get much to do and shows up in very little parts of the movie towards the end. It's not good. We want to forget that villain. Now at number 11 is going to be Shocker. Wow, yeah, I know I'm going to put Shocker on this list. Even though he has such a small part and he's really a henchman villain, I still think it's a recognizable name for a villain from the Spider-Man lore, so I wanted to put him on this list. But wow, Shocker really doesn't get many big moments at all. Totally a sideline, bench warming type of character. He has a couple little action sequences with Spider-Man, but there's just not any development with this one, and you don't really get to see any really cool, shocking powers for the most part, especially nothing that we remember from the video games or the comics. Shocker should definitely be a lot more powerful character, and here, like I said, he's just a henchman, so that's why he's low on the list.
The world's changing, boys.
Now to get into number 10. At 10 is going to be the Tinkerer. Yeah, another henchman villain out of Spider-Man Homecoming. But I do think the Tinkerer has some merits here. I actually like how they included him in the movie. Even though he is a henchman to the Vulture, he does some cool things in helping out the Vulture. Him being that character that helps develop the Vulture costume with all the alien technology, he is actually given a important purpose. And even though it's in total support of the main villain, the Vulture, I still think it's fun to have that character, the Tinkerer, in that movie. Still pretty low on the list, but that's why he's a little bit higher than some of the other villains. Now at number 9 is going to be Dane DeHaan's Green Goblin from the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie. Wow, what went wrong here? Quite a bit actually. So I think the main problems just stem from Harry Osborn not getting enough screen time, not enough build up in this Amazing Spider-Man series to really connect to the Peter Parker character. And without having that real connection build up, we really don't have much care towards that character when he turns into the Green Goblin. It just feels very forced, very quick, and it's just not as exciting. And then when he becomes the Green Goblin, he like just his face metamorphoses and he starts to look like a goblin, but so they take Goblin very seriously in terms of actually looking like a goblin. It's not a costume, it's like an actual transformation, and I just thought that was really weird. But the one saving grace here is that when he's flying around on the glider, that does look cool, and he has an amazing sequence. Probably one of my favorite sequences out of any Spider Man movie when he is fighting Spider Man and drops Gwen Stacy, and that provides for such a powerful moment and such a shocking scene in the movie that that's why his Green Goblin character gets a little bit higher up on the list, but not too much. So at number 8 is going to be the Lizard. Now, what brings the Lizard a little bit higher up on this list is that he is actually a main villain of his own movie, so he does get more screen time, which is always good to see. And then also they brought him back for No Way Home, which also gives him a little bump because we do get to see him more in that newer movie interacting with some other characters. He doesn't have a big part in No Way Home, but at least he gets a few lines of dialogue that helps him get bumped up a little bit on this list. But some of the main drawbacks with him, especially in the Amazing Spider-Man movie, is that I just don't like the way this character looks. He doesn't look like a full-on lizard with the lizard snout right out of the comics. He looks more like a dinosaur man, and it just looks odd to me. And also his plot just to turn people into lizard people in the first movie, I thought that was a really weak plot element. So I had to keep him at this level. Couldn't put him much too higher. And then plus with No Way Home, he is kind of a bench warmer villain and doesn't get a lot to do in that movie either. So had to keep him at this level.
Harry.
You knew this was coming, Pete.
Now to get into what I consider at least decent villains. So at number 7 is going to be the New Goblin. Now, reason why the New Goblin is so high up on this list is because I really like how we got a lot of development with the Harry Osborn character all the way starting in Spider-Man 1. And we got him back in Spider-Man 2 and then in Spider-Man 3. So that way, once we see him in Spider-Man 3 as the New Goblin, we already invested in this character. We've already had the build up, the character growth, and now we have the transformation into a villain. So to me, that just makes for a more interesting villain. And when he is the New Goblin, I think that is really cool how they actually did it and change it up. How he has the hoverboard, all the weapons he's using, and I think he has some decent action sequences in Spider-Man 3. And so I actually think this one is at least considered a decent villain. So that's why New Goblin gets that number 7 spot. So at number 6 is going to be the Sandman. I like how they made that character the main villain of Spider-Man 3, and I thought he had a lot of potential. I like how he started out and they connected him to the Uncle Ben storyline. I think that makes sense for him to be the next Spider-Man villain in that trilogy. And I felt like if they focused on him, he could have done quite a bit. I liked all his sand powers, and I thought how they were utilized were really cool to see on screen visually. And then even how Spider-Man fights him with using water to kind of turn him into mud. I thought that was all done quite nicely. And I feel like if they just kept the focus on him, we could have got a really good third act and satisfying ending with the Sandman in that Spider-Man 3 movie. And then also they do bring him back in the new No Way Home movie, so it was great to see him back. He got a few lines of dialogue which were okay, but I did want to see more from him in that movie. He did feel like another bench warmer, just like the Lizard was in No Way Home. So I can't put him up any higher on this list.
We can change the world.
Then let's go catch a spider.
Now at number 5 is going to be Electro. Now, I don't like how they started out with Electro's character, how he was kind of a dorky villain that was just a really big fan of Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man didn't notice him, and so that was his motivation for becoming a villain. We've seen that done before and done better. So I thought how Electro started out wasn't great, but then when he becomes Electro in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, I think he looks really cool with his electrical powers, and there's some awesome sequences with his electricity during a lot of main action components of the movie. So I thought he did that great in Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, was he fully developed in that movie? No. Was he given enough screen time? No. Was he fully fleshed out? No. But at least he had some cool looking powers. And then he did get a major bump up in No Way Home. I liked how they brought him back and they gave him a little bit better of a personality. I actually liked his character a lot more in No Way Home. And then with the new classic looking costume and his powers again in No Way Home being awesome, that's why he got such a bump up on this list. I had to put him up just a little bit higher.
You don't want any part of this.
Now to get into what I consider are quite good villains. At the number 4 spot is going to be Mysterio. Wow, I really liked Mysterio in Far From Home. I liked how they updated his costume just a little bit to make it a little bit more futuristic and technology-like, but they still kept the classic fishbowl, which was great to see right out of the comics. And then just how they used the drone projection equipment to create all those elemental illusions and how that kept in spirit of the Mysterio villain character. So I liked how all that was done, and I thought his motivation made sense with being a disgruntled Tony Stark employee. So that all worked for the story. And then especially the third act of the movie I thought was really well done. And then how he does the big reveal of Spider-Man's secret at the end. I just think that worked good in terms of a story element. So that's why Mysterio is so high up on this list.
The guy is still out there. I've just got to do this on my own.
And then at number 3 is going to be the Vulture. Wow, the Vulture out of Spider-Man Homecoming was so well done. And they just kept with that Vulture personality of how he would scavenge that alien leftover debris equipment from the Avenger movies. And that was so cool to see. So he acted truly like a vulture, and then how Michael Keaton played him, he really looked the part. And then with his mechanical wings, he just looked so cool and menacing. And then how they tied in the character with Peter Parker being the dad of the date that Peter Parker was taking to the dance. That was such a big, shocking moment. And so I thought all the motivations worked for the Vulture. I thought it was performed very well. And it was just overall such a cool villain to finally see the Vulture on screen. Now to get into number 2. Wow, number 2 and 1 were both tough to decide. It was such a nail-biting decision. But at number 2, I'm going to have to put Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. Wow, Willem Dafoe did such a great job portraying this character. Just with all his facial expressions and movements, and his eyes were just so intimidating and scary. And overall, I did like his costume from Spider-Man 1. Even though it wasn't perfect, it was a little Power Ranger-like. I thought the eyes and the face were really intimidating with it, and so it still worked just fine. But then they even improved upon the costume in Spider-Man No Way Home, giving that purple hoodie torn up with it. I thought that looked great and looked more like a classic Green Goblin, so that was even a upgrade. But he's such a great villain both in Spider-Man 1 and No Way Home. Always intimidating, always terrifying, and a true threat against Spider-Man. And then also how he connects to Harry Osborn and then the Peter Parker character and all those relationship dynamics. It just works so perfectly. And then that final showdown in No Way Home. Wow, that is a great clash. And he has some amazing lines of dialogue. He's very quotable. In both movies, you just remember some of those lines. And wow, Green Goblin definitely deserves number two, almost got number one. Now to get into my number one favorite villain from the Spider-Man live action movies. You guys already know by now, it is Dr. Octopus. Wow, this is such a great villain. And the reason why I gave him that number one spot over Green Goblin is that not only can he play a great villain, but also a great hero, as we see in Spider-Man No Way Home. But first, just starting with Spider-Man 2. Wow, Dr. Octopus is such a great villain, and how we connect right away to Dr. Octavius's character, and then to see that transformation and his mechanical arms provide for such amazing action sequences. I think the best action sequences we've seen out of any Spider-Man movie, just to mention one being that train scene, so powerful with Dr. Octopus. It was fantastic. And then to see in No Way Home how he looked like just carried right over from Spider-Man 2 straight into No Way Home, same exact personality, and how Alfred Molina was able to play the character that exact same way. No change at all, and it worked perfectly, brought back that same type of personality. And when he's a villain in No Way Home, he's very intimidating and scary again, and a true threat. But then when he becomes a good guy and helps out Spider-Man, he even does the hero part well too. So I had to pick him for number one because he does the villain part well, he can do the hero part well, he looks extremely cool, and his personality is just so memorable, and he has great lines as well. So I had to give Dr. Octopus that number one spot.
Hello, Peter. You're not Peter Parker.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Dr. Otto Octavius.
Wait, no, seriously, what's your actual name?
So that will do it for today's mega ranking, ranking all of the Spider-Man live action movie villains from the worst to the best. So if you like these types of ranking videos, definitely let me know in the comments below. What other ranking lists would you all like to see in the future? Also, make sure you like the video, and if you're discovering my channel for the first time, make sure you subscribe. That way I can get you all that future movie ranking content, movie reviews, movie news, movie hauls, you name it. We talk everything movies on this channel. I don't want you to miss any of it, so make sure you subscribe so I can get you all that future movie entertainment. And this is Mega Mike, the Movie Man, out here reminding you to make every day a movie day.